Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Katie Serbu, Director of Programs and Engagement here at the McConnell Arts Center. And today with me, I have the one and only Bryan Moss. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We are so excited to get to feature you. Thank you so much for being my guinea pig this week too, and jumping in and diving into some of these questions. We're going to have so much fun just kind of getting to know little bits about you and what you're doing at the McConnell Arts Center right now. So
Cool.
I would love to have you start with just an introduction of kind of what you've been up to recently and what led you to this.
Cool. So this started roughly over the summer with the protests going on and raising awareness to the injustice. We started doing murals downtown and around the city. This would include basically, it would be a long list of names, but GCAC, basically the whole city, gathered together to put that energy into something positive and impacting and also raising awareness. And so that kind of is what led us down the pathway to the McConnell. And then we created a exhibition based off of this, correct? And then that's how we met, Katie. And then you guys have pieces outside as well of the center. So that's kind of like in a nutshell how we got from murals being downtown to being in a gallery, So that's kind of, and we were just like working around the clock all summer for about a month or a couple of weeks. I'd say 2 to 3 weeks, getting all the murals up. So it's really fun.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool parts about your area of the exhibition is where you can see your pieces, and then you turn to the windows and you can see the murals that you worked on right outside as well. So I think that's kind of a neat tie to be able to see that all in one shot.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that because it's something that we don't really consider as artists when you're installing and putting things into a gallery. So that was a very brilliant, definitely a pat yourself on the back, Katie, moment. So no props to you on that. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun to put together. So thank you so much for participating in both. I know you've been busy too. So can you talk to me about where you're living, what's happening in your world right now?
Yeah. So over the summer, in August, what happened is that the museum offered to move me into my mentor's house, Amina Robinson. So that's what you're seeing behind me currently. You'll see a few artifacts, well, a lot of artifacts actually. We'll see, there's one of her dolls right there. And it's considered a museum, so that has a lot of the integrity still of a museum, but it also highlights and showcases Amina's narrative here. It's Carol Ginshaft is probably the person that, we prop up, and she spearheaded this whole thing. So I always like to give her a little spotlight because the work she did with Amina as a collaboration is really impactful. And then Deidre was also involved in the process. And they both have the exhibition at the Columbus Museum of Art currently. But to give you guys an idea, this is also Amina's book collection behind me. So it's really cool inspiration-wise because it feels like I'm always here with her, that we work and do art together. So there's a very spiritual aspect to it that I value and appreciate. So they moved me in here in August. And that being said, I'm working on a few projects currently. I'll just drop them real quick, even though I can't say much about them, just to give people a context. So I'm working on a book for Abrams, the book company. That book's called Eightfold Path. It's a graphic novel, 240 pages. So it's a lot of work. And then the second project I'm working on is for Coca-Cola and White Castle. Their 100th anniversary is coming up. So we're doing something that's going to be really cool for the community and for the corporation that I think people will really enjoy to kind of bring in. The goal is to bring in more people to Columbus and kind of making the White Castle Corporation like a landmark. So we're going to do some big art things in there. So that will be announced.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yay. Thank you for sharing with us. Is this with their new headquarter area?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Totally. Yeah.
That's
So
so
I'm
exciting.
pretty busy. So when you guys asked me like, hey, we want to showcase the artists from the, created the murals and, raised awareness, I was like, oh yeah, I have all the time in the world. No problem.
And my favorite part about that is not only did you whip things together for us, but then we wanted to include Barbara into it too. And so you put together But Tonight in but a night. I mean, that was like,
Totally.
what, 2 days and we had
Yeah.
another piece? That was
Yeah.
fantastic.
No, yeah, it was definitely like one of those things where, because like what happens is like, I like working between, because as an artist, you can't survive like just from one stream. So I think what we're kind of like bringing into realization, Kitty, with this dialogue is the idea that we're seeing different aspects, right? So it's a gallery, it's also community driven, it can be corporate, even though it doesn't have to be. So I'm not trying to sell anybody on that idea, but but it's a good conversation to showcase and explain to like the reality of an artist and the kind of support we rely on. So we rely on like people like you reaching out and like saying like, hey guys, like what can we do to help and support? So I really appreciate that.
What inspired you to participate in creating the murals, and how has it felt to be a part of this movement?
hmm So it's been pretty eye-opening because myself and Hakeem Qualwood, we collaborated on a few of the murals over the summer, and I mentor Hakeem. And he's over the summer. It was really cool to watch Hakeem grow and blossom into a like and getting that spotlight. So I'm really proud of that, and those are the kind of things that as an artist keeps me going, right? And so you'll see those kind of things in the murals. So when you think about the murals, there's one that's called Rise. When doing that, I was able to bring in a few artists younger that I haven't worked with for a few years, and to give them another opportunity and to like allow them to do something in the community. So when I approach the mural and designing it, it's something that they can also execute. It's kind of like showing them how to create a piece. And all it is red background with block black letters. So it doesn't have to be a mural that has to dazzle someone because you're communicating an idea and you're inspiring. So that can look any different way. And that disseminates even when you have people help you, making the mural, or you're using it as an educational tool to help someone create aesthetics. So I pride myself on giving people also that like leg up or that experience so that they have something that they can recall or also be proud of. So when I do murals, it's definitely a very community driven, it's a holistic idea. It's not just singular. So that's usually my approach and my philosophies for the murals. It's interesting because you guys are located out in Worthington, and we were initially doing those murals downtown. So just to see the migration of those pieces, and then it's evolving into this, and then those are just the kind of things that are very rewarding. I think that the community should always celebrate themselves, and there should always be a way to highlight that. So any opportunity there is, I think that's always a positive way. That being said, I think, well, I feel that the artist winters are very hard for muralists because it's not very active. And I think this right here, this experience, this interview, this process, even with the gallery, it's the idea of taking something outside and bringing it in and creating a dialogue and then extending that on to online. So I think just like what we're doing right now is a very impactful, positive in creating that continuation of that narrative. So once again, I'm grateful for you doing this because this is it. You know what I mean? This is what I find to be inspiring and to keep everyone going.
do you have anything that you want to share with the patrons that we haven't talked about, or anything about just your current works right now that you wanted to share with everybody?
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to talk about one of the pieces specifically in the exhibition. Katie, can you give me, let's see here. No, communication through time. Boom, remembered it.
Yep.
So, that's going to be the showpiece, or like the central wall piece. And what that is, you'll see someone communicating like at kind of like a podium kind of thing. And then you're going to see other things like orange characters floating in the water. You're going to see old technology, new technology in the piece, which includes like an old computer. Then there's like an iPhone, or like a phone. It doesn't have to be specific to an iPhone. And that idea is, I've had that painting for a long time, in the sense that I've worked on it for a long time, right? And your location is the second place I showed it. In the first location that it was shown, it was still during COVID, so I didn't get to exercise or express the showcasing of it that much. So that's why I want to highlight it now, why I have the opportunity. This piece I made, it's acrylic on canvas, and I'm going to paint on top of it. It repainted in oil, so it'll have a layer on top of that. But the point of the painting that I want to share with everyone, it's like the idea of the narrator on stage communicating to the public or to the people. So it's kind of like a theater approach, but it's also like the narrative through history. So through technology, that's where those kind of parts come in, where it's like communication used by technology. What does that look like? What did it used to look like? What does it look like in this like Neanderthal kind of space, or like this like woodsy space, you know? So that's the piece that I worked on really hard, that I'm really fond of, because it's kind of like an idea or a symbol of like the kind of things I like to paint or kind of do. You know what I mean? It's like the idea of deconstructing, but also celebrating the narrative. So yeah, so that's just like my personal favorite out of the exhibition. I love all my paintings. That's why I paint them.
Of course.
Like, hey guys, you better see this painting. You'll never see it again. You better go see this painting.
That's a great one. It is such a feature when you walk into the space too. It just, we were talking about the other day, it just calls to you when you walk into the room. So it definitely is a great celebration of that communication. So thank you for sharing with us. And, you know, not everybody's ready to purchase a painting right now, but is there any other way that we could support you or get to see you and get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, so my name is Bryan Christopher Moss. You'll find that on all social media, Facebook, Instagram. Also, Strange Things Moss is on Instagram. That comes from a comic I did from way back in the day. I just never let it go. And then people were like, "Oh, are you a fan of the show?" And I'm like, "I never seen the show. You know, I was there before the show. They stole their ideas from me." So, that didn't happen, because I would be living in a mansion right now. But anyway, so I could always use support on my Patreon, which is just going to be Bryan Christopher Moss, patreon.com. The reason I say that, and if I could have a moment, it's not about even me, like the idea of me, I'm not begging for money. But what it is, it's a pathway for artists to be able to sustain themselves. So it's more about, if I can loop them into supporting me with like $1, then they'll meet other artists that they can also support. And so it's more about that. The goal is to get people going to that site so that they can support artists. All it is you're supporting an artist and you're giving them a small charitable donation every month, and that allows them just to sustain. So I want to raise awareness to that platform because I think it's really healthy. But if you want to see art and just see what kind of stuff I do and how I goof off on the internet, it's always positive. And I would say my Instagram, so Strange Things Moss. So,
Perfect. Yeah. That's great. You're such an inspiration, Bryan. I love just having different artists come in as they're dropping off, and everybody's like, "Oh, Bryan's doing this. I worked
Oh,
with him in such and such." And so
yeah, that's really
it's
cool.
been an honor.
Yeah, that makes me happy because like I don't really because I work so much. So it's always nice to hear those kind of things, even though I do it genuinely. You know what I mean? I lose money every time I help. I lose money. I'm like, hey, is this how it's supposed to work? No, I'm joking. But it's nice to hear those things though because I work with a lot of people, and so it's nice to hear that they value that. So I appreciate that sentiment.
Very valued in the arts community and just in the community in general. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to continuing to feature you throughout the week. So everybody check it out. We'll have stuff on Facebook, on Instagram, and come see us in the gallery. We have open visitation. We do it by appointment. So check out our website to set up your appointment. We do it in 30-minute increments. And if you have a couple of people you want to bring with you, we're doing a maximum of 10 people at a time. We're keeping our distance and we're keeping our masks on. So thank you so much for joining us today, Bryan, and we'll see you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.